Welcome
to the joy of coding.
Hi-oh, and welcome to episode 372 of The Joy of Coding. My name is Mike Conley. It's so good to have you here. As per usual, we're going to be hacking on some Firefox stuff today. Really looking forward to that. Let's get started. What are we doing? Let me start by sharing my screen. This is the agenda. It is July 10th, 2024. A reminder, no plan survives breakfast. I think I know how today's going to go. I think I think I know what I'm going to be tackling today, but I don't know how it's going to, like, what the result's going to be. I haven't pre-written any of the things I'm going to write today in advance with like I've seen people do that where they're like live demoing and they'll have like a stuff like to their side and they're typing it all out and stuff. This is not that. This is me like thinking out loud and trying to write software, as you watch, and we'll deal with problems as they come. That's the first thing. Second thing is there is an episode guide. You should check it out. The episode guide is linked to the agenda, which I realize I haven't talked about yet. The agenda that we're looking at is something that you have access to. If you're watching this on Air Mozilla, a link to it is in the details section. On YouTube, it's down in the video description. On Twitch, I think it's down in the channel details. And if you click on the links, you should be able to go to the places that I'm linking to. And if I update the agenda, like if I add an exclamation mark here, eventually this little spinny will spin. And if you reload the page, you should see the up-to-date agenda. Right, so the episode guide. Check it out, completely viewer-driven. And if you want to add your own notes, addenda, corrections, who knows, go ahead and send me a pull request to the repository. The episode guide is for you. It's to make things better for viewers just like you. Okay, what are we working on today? Well, it's still backup stuff. I wanted to show where we're at. We're actually in pretty decent shape with the UI. This is the current. Let me start over here. Okay, so this is the current UI. If it was enabled in Nightly with the patches that I have applied, it would look like this. And if you had a backup file, you could like use this to like restore from it. If you didn't have automatic backups enabled, this is how you could turn it on. You could just like turn on backups. You could choose to like encrypt it with a password or not, and where to place it. I'm going to go ahead and turn on backups without encryption. And if I change my mind, I could like enable encryption here. And then this is where like all my backups get positioned, get placed, and I can change the location if I want. I can turn backups off. Like that's how it's all working. And the part that I just added was this chunk down here for restoring your data. And so there's a patch for that. Here, there's like a work in progress patch for it, and I'm pretty happy with the patch. I think what I wanted to do today was to write tests. So yeah, one of the things I started doing was I decided to use a CSS grid because one of the things I realized, the patch adds this like call to action down here underneath backup whenever backup is off, and it goes away whenever it's on. And when the call to action is available, it's supposed to not go underneath this button. Like the learn more shouldn't, like it should wrap before it reaches the button. And so what I do is like I use CSS grid to grid this sort of header indicator, the button, and the call to action, and then I can hide part of that grid like this. So yeah, and this is similar. This chunk down here, this call to action, or this description of what's going on is using CSS grid. And yeah, the backup control is the class that I'm using for that. We've got to-dos to finalize the support pages, but for now that's not part of this patch. And I think what I wanted to do was to write tests. Yeah, this patch ended up being a lot smaller than I thought it would be, which is great. And I wanted to write tests. That's what is blocking us from actually posting this for review. So let us design some tests. What do we want to test? Well, what exactly we added was the scheduled backup call to action. That's this thing. We want to make sure that it is visible whenever backups are off and invisible when it's on. And then we also want to make sure that restore your data. This section is in two. It can be in two different states. When backups are off, it mainly talks about restoring your data from a pre-existing backup that you may have gotten from a different machine. And when you turn on automatic backups, it sort of changes itself subtly to talk about restoring maybe from this backup, the backup that you've been running with, and you can choose to restore from it. It's subtle, but there is a difference there. And so I wanted to add tests for that. We're going to be using Moki Test Chrome tests for this because we're going to be testing the little widgetry, and then we'll add tests for the buttons doing the right thing using a Moki Test browser test. Well, first of all, do the existing tests pass? That's maybe the first thing I should check. So I'm going to pump up my font here a little bit, and then I'll go mock, test, browser components, backup tests. Let's run the browser tests first and see if these pass. Because they might not. And if they don't, we got to fix them. Oh, they do. That's good. And then let's do our Chrome tests here. These are just testing the widgetry, the individual widgets. They all pass. So we're adding to the existing tests. Okay. So the tests that I'm thinking of writing are going to go inside. We'll start with the Chrome test first. There's an existing test file for backup settings. We'll just reuse this. And so we've got a bunch of different tests for like different states that it can be in. I want to add a test that password controls, edit location, show in folder, backup location, backup timestamp, disable backup dialog, turn off scheduled backups, init widget. Okay. I'm going to write a test. Add task, async function test, content when scheduled backups disabled. And so we'll say tests that the right content is displayed if backups are disabled. Scheduled backups. Automatic, scheduled, automatic backups are disabled. And so we will get the test one, and we'll basically do this, that thing. For some reason, paste is really slow with VS Code for me, which is really annoying. I don't know what it's on about. Is there like a status? I can see what's going on in the debug console. Like what's it doing? Output. Might be some kind of prettier thing. Okay, so we make sure, instead of making sure, we're not testing the password controls. We're going to make sure that a few things. We're going to make sure that and this came back. Was one create? Turn on backup. Turn off backup should have cleared that. Turn off and delete backup. Turn on backup. Turn off backup. Restart. Why is this here? 243 from... That's interesting. I'm gonna have to look into why that might be. Why this is still pre-populating. I might have a format on paste setting. That's true. That could very well be. So there's a bug there. I'm not going to get distracted by that bug, but I will take a note. File a bug for the pre-existing, for a backup still being displayed as existing after having disabled backups and restarting. Okay, so the tests are, we're going to test that when backups are disabled. So let's turn it on, turn it off again so we can look at it. When backups are disabled, we show the CTA under here, and the restore section has the right strings. Test that when backups are enabled, we do not show the CTA. The restore section has the right strings. Okay, that's easy. So the first thing we are going to do, let's check that the CTA is visible. And the node that we'll look at, scheduled backups CTA template. I'm going to give it an ID. Scheduled backups CTA. And I'll create an accessor for it. Scheduled backups CTAL. Paste. Right. And then over here we'll say assert okay settings dot scheduled backup CTAL. We want to check visibility, and the way we do that is there is a is hidden that we use. Is visible or is hidden? Visible. What tool do we use? There's like a visible, hidden, showing. What's the? I know we've got one for the migration wizard. Migration wizard. Visible. Is hidden. That's what it is. Is hidden. Okay. I can't believe we don't already use that in here. Okay. I'm guessing there's another one called is visible, but let's find out. CTA, scheduled backups, CTA should be visible. Okay, so it is not liking it. So maybe not is hidden. Let's just run that and see what happens. No. Should be visible. Backup is disabled, so it should not be hidden. So what's going on here? Can I await? What will this look like? Set timeout. That's not quite right. There. Oh, I can't see it. It's hidden. It's like hidden from me. Okay. So it's saying it's not hidden. Or it's saying it is hidden. This is failing. So let's see what's going on here. Scheduled backups. I'm going to write dump. Rendering CTA. See what happens there. Yeah, rendering the CTA. So is this getter? Dump, checking the getter. Settings, scheduled backup CTAL. So that should be some DOM element. Yeah, it's a div. We're saying it should be visible. How does is hidden, is visible working? Is hidden, Moki test. So it's saying that the bounding client rect happens to be 0, 0. Let's double check that. Let rect equals settings scheduled backups CTAL get bounding client rect dump rect. Interesting. Huh. So it is 0, 0. Why would that be? It's in the DOM. Is there a way I can like debug this? Mock test, mock Moki test, flavor, Chrome. JS debugger. Let's see if it accepts that. It does not. Why would the div element be 0, 0, 0, 0? Let's look at it in Storybook. It's because the strings wouldn't have been rendered yet. That'd be bizarre. Backups disabled. So this should be here, and it is. So let's get access to backup settings, backup, scheduled backups, CTAL, get bounding client rect. Yeah, has all those nice values. So is it possible that the strings haven't been, the translation hasn't occurred yet? I guess that's possible, because will have just rendered as opposed to have been made visible. L10N. Is there a way I can like await test, and then is there like a L10N await localization. Oh. Locale. There's a way, I think, for me to await this stuff. How do I await for the strings to be rendered? I'm certain there's a way of doing that. DOM localization.webidl. Connect, pause, set, translate, fragment, translate elements, pause observing, set attributes. I've seen it where it's like, where have I seen it? You know what? I think I was talking to someone about it recently. Let me just go through my notes, see if I can find. I was talking to a colleague about this exact thing. Let me see if I can find where we talked about it. Has pending Eltanen mutations. This. Await Eltanen finish promise. Eltanen mutations finished. So let's see if we do that in our test. Let localization equal browser test utils wait for event settings Eltanen mutations finished. I'll just await it, and now let's see what its dimensions are. Never fires that event while we're waiting. Where is our content? Oh, it's display none. Is that, where is this thing? Backup, shadow root, scheduled backups. CTA. Why would content be display none? Do we do that on purpose? Content style display none. I'm gonna get rid of that. Hang on. Still, where is it? Content. It has dimensions. Scheduled backups. CTA, there it is. Why aren't you visible? Where are you? Where are you? Body, document, frame. Why can't I see it? This is so bizarre. Container. Computed. Is there like some opacity on it or something? Like why wouldn't I be able to see it? I'm getting very confused here. And like, the CTA is there. It has the right dimensions. So like, do I still need to wait for the mutation event? Now I'm feeling something differently. Dialogue should be open dialogue. Okay, here's what I'm gonna do, I think. I think what I'm gonna do is I'm not going to check that, I'm not gonna use the is hidden helper. I'm just gonna check that the button, the div is available. I'm just gonna say, okay, scheduled backup CTA should be in the DOM. Because there's no like hide and show logic with like the display or anything. Like we're not using CSS to hide it or something. It's just, is it in the DOM or not? And so maybe that should be enough. Yeah, okay. First check, yeah, should be in the DOM. And then what's the other part? Check that we're going to check that the restore buttons have the right DOM element IDs, or data L10N IDs. Restore header, the backup restore button, backup toggle restore button, backup toggle restore description. Toggle restore button. Wait, backup. Do I already have that? Restore button. I'll bet I do. Yeah, restore from backup button L. So we can use that. Okay. Settings dot that dot get attribute data L10N ID. It should be is. So this should be the string that is whenever we're off. It should be this one. And then we also have to check that the description L. And I'll put it here. Backup toggle. Backup restore description. Oh, backup toggle, just backup restore description is fine. I can get rid of that dump statement. The other thing I'm just remembering now is I also don't want to call this a CTA. I'm going to call it a description, even though sometimes it's used for a CTA. And so now that we have this description L, we can make sure that it's not this string. What is the string that I'm looking for? It's this one. Okay, let's test that. Beautiful. Let's also test that, or let's do the opposite now. Let's test that when they are enabled, backups are enabled. Are enabled. True. Okay, not scheduled backups should not be in the DOM. And then this should be on, and this should be on. Perfect. And then, was there something else I wanted to add a test for? What had this patch added? The button already has a test for it. I saw it. So I think we might actually be good for our tests. So we might actually be done this patch. Let's run the whole test again. Or the whole suite. Let's run browser, the browser tests. All right, let's run the XBC shell tests. Okay, and let us test the Marionette tests. Or run the Marionette tests, not test the Marionette tests. So they're all passing. I'm pretty happy about that. So what were our changes then? I changed the CTA to be a description for the grid template areas. I added some getters, some IDs there, and then these two tests, which I'm pretty happy about. Okay, let's amend. Now, before I submit this for review, I wanted to take the time to really think about what's going wrong here. Why backups are off? Why is this being shown? The only reason that would be shown is if the last backup dot, if these two prefs hadn't been cleared. And I'm pretty sure we clear those. Backup service. Last backup file name. You know what? We're not clearing them when we delete the last backup. We have to clear those prefs as well. That's what's going on. We have to clear both of these. So we have removed the file, but we forgot to clear the prefs. So I'm going to file a new bug for that. And I'll fix that separately. We can write a patch for that now. Okay, so let's post this up for review. Did I already amend? Okay. Submit, tip, single. Let's go. Take it out of whip. I'm seeing some chatter. Anyone asks, can you search for it in the elements? That was like 10 minutes ago. I apologize. I didn't see your question, so I don't know the context. My apologies. And Buva asks, what is that? Oh, yeah, that was 17 minutes ago. So I don't know. I don't know what it is that we were looking at 17 minutes ago. I apologize. I wasn't looking at the chat. If you're still curious, please ask again with more context, and maybe I can answer. Okay, so our patch here is now up for review. That's great. And we can wait for that. I want to file that other bug. It's Fallout from delete last backup. I'm pretty sure whichever added this, which was 841171. That was me. That's this stuff, which is on Autoland right now, but it looks like I missed a spot. That depends on this bug. Don't forget to clear the last backup file name timestamp preference when deleting the last backup. The delete last backup method that I added in here cleared the last backup file name and timestamp from the in-memory state, but didn't also clear it from the preferences. It should do that. So it reappears on after a restart. We should make sure to clear those preferences as well. Okay, so I will take this. And write a patch, and the patch will be here. We'll go let's copy those two pref names, services prefs clear user pref, and then the first one is last backup timestamp pref name. All right, let's make sure that that fixes it. And then we'll write a test. So here it is off, turn it back on, turn it off, restart. Those values shouldn't come back. Good, they're gone. That's what we wanted. So what I think we should do is actually write a test for delete last backup. So mock add test browser components backup test. We're going to add an XPC shell test backup service delete last backup.js. I'll add it to tracking. Okay. tests that deleting the last backup will attempt to delete the file pointed at by the delete the file known backup file if it exists. Will not attempt, will delete the last known backup file if it exists. And will clear the preferences, last backup, timestamp, and file name, state, properties, and preferences. And then the other one we're going to test is in the event that the user has manually deleted, see, paste is just hanging around. Test that deleting last backup will not reject if the last backup file does not exist, and will still clear. Yeah. So file exists. Delete last back. I'll just say file exists. And then file does not exist. Okay. What's the best way to do this? You want the internal last backup date to be set. And that happens in this method here, this when you create a backup, but also if you init the backup scheduler, it'll load the last backup date and the last backup file name. So we're gonna pretend to init the backup scheduler. That's what we'll do to trick ourselves. We'll preload those oh, we're gonna have to also, oh, this is gonna be annoying. Okay, what might be easier is to actually create a backup, an unencrypted backup, instead of the other way. So let's do that. Delete last backup. So let's create create fake path. Fake backup path. Test backup service. Can I just create a backup? Like, there's like, I think a lot one has to do. Stay where it thinks its profile is one pointed at by current profile. I wonder if I should actually, instead of having a separate test like this, I move it into here, because there are a bunch of utilities I already need in here. I actually like that a lot better. So let's move these into here. Let's get rid of delete last backup. Forget. Then remove it. Okay. And then down here, let's see what we've done before. We create a unique directory. Let's check for post recovery, test create backup signed in. Test create backup helper. What does that do again? Produces a backup of fake resources, recovers the backup into a new profile directory, ensures that the resources had their backup recovery methods called. A function that is run once all the default checks are done. After this function returns, all resources will then be cleaned up. So it does those things, then it cleans everything up. Yeah, I don't mind reusing this. Test create backup helper. So we'll create a sandbox. Sign on, create sandbox. Sandbox. Store, and then have you investigated if profile backup can replace profile reset yet? No, I have not. Although we did file a bug about that. So maybe in the future we will look at it. Just gonna, we don't need the manifest, so we won't accept it. And in here, use the does it create a new backup service? I think it does. Yeah, okay. So we need to clear the clear any last backup file names and timestamps that might be lingering from prior tests. So services, prefs, clear, user, pref. We're gonna copy the two definitions up here. Don't need this file anymore. Close. It won't let me close this file. The whole thing is broken. VS Code is broken. It is no longer responding. Oh God, come on, VS Code. There we go. I'm gonna put these, don't save. I'll put these up here. Clear. Services, prefs, clear, user, pref, file name. Okay. Now we will ensure assert OK. Oh, and I'm gonna want to do this in here actually. Async. Test function, it just gets handed the backup helper. I'm going to make sure it also gets passed the backup service. Manifest, say yes. Okay. don't use the manifest this time. We'll make sure that assert okay bs.state.last backup date should have a last backup date recorded. Assert okay bs state last backup file name should have a last backup file name recorded. Those are the right ones, right? Just pasting in general, like pasting into this find input. Caspian Matrix was wondering if profile backup can remember favicons and open tabs position. Yes, it can. And then we should make sure that the prefs exists, has user preference, has side pref branch, has pref has user value. That's what it is. Assert okay. Services pref has user value. Last backup date was cached in preferences. What's going on here? There we go. And last backup file name was cached in preferences. And then we need to make sure that the file that got created exists. Assert okay await iutils exists. Let's backup file, backup dir path. Let backup file path const backup file path equals path utils dot join bs dot state dot come on. bs dot state backup dir path. Okay. And we will assert that it exists. Backup file path. The backup file was created and is still on the disk. Then we will await bs.delete last backup. Then we will make sure that this file was deleted. Not. The backup file was deleted. Let's see what happens when we run this test. It likes it. Very good. I'm liking it. So now we need to make sure that all of these preferences were cleared. BS okay not. Should have or equal BS, but the backup date should be null. Should have cleared the last backup date. Should have cleared the last backup file name, so it should be the empty string. And then not and not. Last backup date was cleared. Preferences. And then the backup file was deleted. All right. Good. Now we're going to do that exact same thing again, but we're going to delete the file ourselves. Before we delete this file. Now delete the file ourselves before we call delete last backup, so that it's missing from the disk. Await IOUtils remove last backup file path. And that should all just pass. Now what we might be able to do is deduplicate some of this. Test delete last backup file exists. Test delete last backup file does not exist. I'm going to create a new helper. Async function delete last backup helper. What test delete last backup helper, and then task function. What do I do? Should delete. No. Task function. And then we'll do all of this stuff. And then we'll call it from here. Async. Or even better, I'll just do nothing. If task function, await task function. Yeah. And then here, we will clear this for the most part. Instead, task function will pass in the backup file path. We'll go like this. Async last backup file path, await remove, run that. No good. What happened? Promise chain failed. Backup failed. Promise chain failed to reject. To handle, it's already wrapped. It's already wrapped in test. Hang on. Hang on. And line 99. Line 99. Here. I'm passing in a sandbox. Am I not restoring the sandbox? I call this create a sandbox. Do that. Do all of that. Restore. This passing in the sandbox, and I restore the sandbox. Oh, you know what? Yeah, this is I have to await this. That's why. Let's try that. Perfect. Okay, now we just need to document our helper here. Where did the other helper go? It's at the top. I think I'm going to put our helper here at the top as well. Copy the format. Utility function for testing delete last backup. Produces a backup of uses test create backup helper to create a backup file. That's the second part. Clears any prior state for prior pre-existing preference cached preference values for last backup date and file name. Create a backup file, ensures that the state has been updated to reflect the created backup, and that the back file name and timestamp, date, and file name are cached to preferences. Runs an optional task function, calls delete, optional async task function calls delete last backup on the backup service on the backup service instance. Pasting, what a mistake. I should never paste. Test create backup helper, backup service instance. And then checks that the state backup service state for the last backup date and file name have been cleared, and that the cached preferences caches of those values have also been cleared. It doesn't take a sandbox. Function is run once. Null. An optional function that is run once. Test create backup helper run, how about this? Run after we've created a backup, but before calling delete last backup, but just before. Turns promise undefined, and it's past not the backup manifest. It's past string. It is past the path to the created backup file. And then I have to update the doc string here. Backup service, backup manifest, void. All right, that does it. One more run. All right, let's post that for review. Don't forget to clear preference caches when deleting the last backup. Backup reviewers. Okay, post it for review. I can probably, yeah, Moz Fab submit tip single. I'll do that. Then I'll mark it blocking this, or as dependent on this, which is D215543. D216201. There we go. All right. What are we going to do now? We posted that, we did this, done, and we posted a patch. And here are the links to those things. Here. With that done, yeah, the backup component is getting in pretty good shape. There's still quite a bit of polish to apply, but I'm getting pretty happy with it. There's a performance bug that I might want to look at. We can talk about it briefly. How about we start thinking about a performance issue related to backup, and then I'm just realizing I'm looking at this now. Should this be center aligned? Backups control. Align content center. Align justify content center. How do I vertical align these things. CSS grid, vertical align center. Centering in CSS grid. Grid, I'm just looking for the property. Justify items, maybe that's what it is. Justify items. No, not quite. That's horizontal centering. Align items. That's more like it. That's what I think we want. Align items. Yeah, okay. So I'm going to update one of my other patches here. This one. To fix that. Backup settings.css align items center. Let's take a quick peek. That looks right. Okay. So I'll amend, next, and then update both of those patches. And then let's talk about a performance issue. But let me post these up for review first. Submit that to that. Fix an alignment issue introduced by the switch to CSS grid. Okay, so what is the issue? Well, one of the things that we do whenever we create a backup is we copy all the data stores, like a bunch of data stores, places, favicons, logins, payment methods, certificates, cookies, sessions, all sorts of data stores, add-ons, the add-ons database. And these things get copied at runtime, safely copied, and then we compress them. We compress them using something called NSI Zip Writer, which is basically we have did we re-implement Deflate? I think it's basically an implementation of Zip, and we zip up the contents of everything that was copied, and then after compressed, we encrypt and embed inside of the single file archive. The compression has a problem, which is that I did not realize this whenever we were designing this, but that, it's Zip, all of the I/O for ZipWriter happens off of the main thread, but the actual deflate compression algorithm occurs on the main thread. That's bad, because what that means is if you have a really large profile directory and like the stuff that you've copied is large, then when we create a backup in the background, now to be clear, when we do this, normally speaking, you're probably in a state where you're not like using the computer. Like we wait for idle. But idle doesn't mean you're not using your computer. Maybe you're watching a video. Maybe you're in a Zoom meeting, and maybe there's some kind of animation occurring despite the fact that you're idle. We don't want to jank that. We don't want to drop frames. So doing that compression on the main thread is bad. We don't want to do that. So I was talking to Dave Townsend, Mossop, who is very familiar with the ZipWriter stuff. I think he actually owns it. And he may have even written the original implementation. I don't know, but he I'd say at this point effectively owns it. And yeah, he's like, the background queue that's part of ZipWriter was really about avoiding disk I/O, and it assumed that the cost of compression would be small. and that the deflation actually happens here on the main thread. One could imagine instead pushing the data to a background thread to do the work, though since it may get called again while this is happening, you have to figure out queuing the data and other fun multi-threaded things. And then we went back and forth and on some ideas, and he had an interesting idea that I think we might want to talk about. And in the remaining time of this stream, maybe we can kind of think it through. His idea was, well, you know, the ZipWriter does two things. It deflates files. It deflates streams of bytes, runs the deflate algorithm on streams of bytes, and then it writes them in a format that is like an archive. You know, it's not just, you know, a zip file isn't just one file that's been compressed. It can be folders of files. It has its own file structure internally, and that all of that construction of that file structure, directory and folder structure and whatnot, is something that ZipWriter kind of maintains internally, and all of that occurs off of the main thread. We have the ability to there are, like, this is long after ZipWriter, NSI ZipWriter was part of the Gecko code base. Like, NSI ZipWriter is quite old. Since then, web APIs have been introduced that allow us to compress streams of bytes off of the main thread. These are called compression streams. They are newly available as of Firefox 1.13. And so what happens is you can, like, pipe a stream of bytes through a compression stream with some algorithm. You can use gzip or deflate raw. And then once you've done that, the other end of that, what comes out the other side, are the compressed bytes. And Mossop's thinking is, well, what if we modify ZipWriter so that it can accept a pre-existing compressed file, so that it knows that something else has already done the compression. It's already done the deflation. And then we'd just be handing it to the ZipWriter saying, now put this in the archive. It's already compressed. You don't have to deflate it. And once that's created, then it's a valid zip file. Like, you could unzip it if you had a copy of the zip file. You could unzip it and it would still be like a valid zip file. But we will have moved the responsibility of running deflate to something outside of ZipWriter. And what's nice about this is that it solves a bunch of problems. First of all, it allows us to practically backport these changes to 1.15, because that is something that we are hoping to eventually do. I mean, the jury's still out on whether or not we're going to be able to do that, but we've been designing this backup solution with backporting to 1.15 in mind, because a primary motivation behind all of this backup stuff is to make it easier for people to move off of old versions of Windows to newer versions of Windows and keep using Firefox, is to just make it easy to, like, here, export your data, copy it over to another machine, and then download Firefox and re-import your data and keep going on, get on with your life. So this changing ZipWriter is like, and making it multi-threaded is very dangerous. Like, backporting something like that to 1.15 that's not the sort of thing you'd backport. Is like, let's make ZipWriter multi-threaded. Now, adding a simple method that skips deflation and presumes that the bytes that you're handing it have already been deflated, that is, I think, a lot simpler. And that is a much more practical and safer thing to backport to 1.15. And compression streams already exist since 1.13, so we know they're already there. Presuming they work, this solution allows us, it gives us our off-main thread compression, deflation. We don't have to change from using ZipWriter to something more exotic, and it should backport properly to 1.15 if and when we get there. So it ticks a lot of nice boxes. It is sort of this, it is a little gross that you're adding this new method to ZipWriter, but the idea is, like, down the line, maybe we could make ZipWriter completely off main thread, and then we won't need to do this anymore. This doesn't prevent us from doing that in the future. This is like a nice solution for now that also backports nicely. So that's why I'm thinking of doing it this way. So I'm going to start by saying I really like this idea. By the way, I'm going to try to prototype this to see how difficult it would be to difficult it would be to implement, I'll say. So just so we can read it together, let's say neither of these options sounds compatible with uplifting 115. The zip crate isn't async anyway, so you'd have to figure out threading too. There's another option that I think would work. Add a new method to ZipWriter, something like add compressed file. It should behave like add entry file with compression none is passed, but set the zip entry headers method field to zip method deflate. Then for the files you give it, pass their data through a compression stream first using deflate raw compression. Essentially do the compression for each file yourself, then have ZipWriter just store that data, but mark it as compressed so it is handled correctly when extracting. Sort of similar to your first suggestion, but you end up with a normal zip file. I really like that. So how difficult would that be? Let's look at ZipWriter, the implementation of ZipWriter. So add entry file. ZipWriter is here. So it would be very similar to calling add entry file with a compression set to none. So well, it's not exactly add entry file because it's going to be a stream. That's the other thing. Like a compression stream, what you get out the other side is a stream. Stream of bytes. So somehow ZipWriter needs to accept a stream. That's the first challenge. Do we have add entry stream? Now that takes an old school thing called an NSI input stream. Adds data. So it'd be like add compression stream. Add entry compressed stream. Right? And then you need something. Can we just like use a compression stream within WebIDL, XPCOM IDL? Would it just go over compression stream? Whoops. Compression stream. Is there any pre-existing XPCOM? Oh, compression. That's just the WebIDL. For platform tests. A compression stream is a generic, it's just another transform stream. It's just another kind of generic transform stream, which has a readable stream and a writable stream. So can I pass a readable stream to something with XPCOM? Readable stream. Type def. These are, again, sorry, web platform tests. No. Readable stream to NS input stream. Is there maybe a utility that would allow us to get input stream from it? Maybe get input stream. Interesting. Readable stream body. Stream. Readable stream. Maybe get input stream if unread. Underlying source. Okay, that sounds plausible. You can't pass a byte array to the zip thing because that is what a stream is, right? Not quite. A byte array is like a fixed set of bytes that you can almost think of it as like a byte array is like an array. And a stream is sort of like a living pipeline of bytes that are coming through. And that maybe sounds like a meaningless distinction, but it's helpful to think about the fact that sometimes these streams represent arrays of bytes that are hundreds of megabytes large. So this is why we would want a stream, is like the files that we're compressing here, some of them might be really, really large and we don't want to read the whole thing into memory at the same time. So we stream the bytes in and compress them as bytes flow through the stream. And the only memory overhead, like you trade time for memory because you don't have to hold the whole thing in memory. You don't have to like read the whole file into memory, then compress it like with a copy and then write that to disk. Instead, you buffer some of the file, compress that, write that, compress the next chunk, write that. You stream it that way. And so the memory overhead ends up being your buffer, which can be significantly smaller than the thing that you're compressing. That's one of the principles of what we've been doing with the backup, is making sure that we don't ever have to read like the entire archive into memory at the same time, because it'd be like hundreds of megabytes large, and we don't want to blow out memory, especially if like as soon as you allocate large blocks of memory, you start running into issues where you can out of memory. You can cause out of memory crashes. So it's generally speaking, that happens more frequently if you're trying to allocate contiguous blocks of memory. I don't know if we'd be doing that, but it's just not a good idea performance-wise to allocate large blocks of memory if you can get away with it, if you can make the trade for time. And in this case, we definitely can. So what I'm seeing is I think we could probably pass a readable stream over XPCOM. We've done passing WebIDL constructs over XPCOM before. In fact, we did it with the jump list stuff. If you look at jump list builder, you can see that we, it takes in a JS val of task descriptions. But there's also, you can, want this to be a JS val rather than an array of JS vals. Task descriptions. When did we Windows jump list shortcut description? That was never part of the IDL. Maybe during one of the first versions. Okay, So I think we can do this, like WebIDL space, and then you can bring certain things in. So we might be able to say like WebIDL readable stream, which no one's ever done before, but we could do it in ZipWriter for add compressed stream. Compressed, maybe I'll call it add compressed readable stream. Takes a zip entry, a mod time, the compression being used, or not even, the compression that was used might be handy actually, and then the stream itself, and then whether or not to queue it, and then add entry stream. There's a queue operation. You'd pass it. You get access to the other underlying input stream, and you would do that. But it would already be compressed. You'd say, we need like a new zip queue item property to say like, is already compressed or something. Is compression stream. Is compression stream, or maybe have it be M compression stream or something. And then over here, initialize the header, write the header, get the zip data stream. You would initialize the stream, you pass the stream with compression. You'd say compression none, but you'd update the header write file header. Method zip write data stream buff position write data stream write data size name locale. What is method? M method. Right, you would update M method for zip header. So zip header gets initialized with these things, and M method equals compression equals M method. Write file header. Write M method. It's reading the header. How do you set zip header? It's probably in ZipWriter. Header, there's just like a method, compression method, check whether align stored files method, add entry file. When you do a compression, you say M compression is that. Otherwise, what do you do with a compression? A compression. Here, add entry stream. You pass here or here. You initialize the stream. Pass in compression. Create a deflate converter. And then you set M header, M method to zip method deflate. Otherwise, you just tell it store it. Got it. Okay, I've been doing some thinking out loud here, but I'm starting to get a sense of what we would need to do. I think I'm gonna pause. I'm gonna end the stream. But maybe we can try something like this next week. We'll see. I hope that was interesting. Let me know what you thought of the stream. Yeah, there's a rate this episode link at the bottom of the agenda. I'll just drop a link to that in the chat in case you want to fill that out. Rate this episode link. I read everything that comes in. That's a great opportunity if you're looking for a way to ask me questions or help shape the stream. Let me know what you want to see more of, what you want to see less of. I read everything that comes in, so please send me some stuff. I wanna read what you got to say. And with that, we'll call it there. Thanks everybody for watching episode 372 of The Joy of Coding. I hope that was interesting. And we will. Oh, will I see you next week? You will see me next week. There will be no stream the week after, but there will be a stream next week, hopefully. So I will hopefully see you then. Take care. Take care, everyone. Bye bye.
The joy of coding.
See ya.